Hello.
Councilmember Shrubnik, do you hear us? Councilmember Shrubnik, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Great.
Kenmore City Council is now in session. Would the clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember Culver,
Present.
Councilmember Marshall,
Present.
Councilmember Sassen,
Here.
Councilmember Shrubnik,
Here.
Councilmember
Here.
Lutzis,
Here.
Deputy Mayor O'Kane,
Here.
Mayor Herbig,
Here.
all present.
Next, I will read the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the city of Kenmore is situated upon the ancestral lands of the Snohomish, Snoqualmie, Soxhawtl, Duwamish, Stillaguamish, Tulalip, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, and other tribes who are part of the Coast Salish peoples. We recognize and express our deepest respect for their enduring stewardship and profound relationship with this land, which they have cherished and protected since time immemorial. We honor the First Peoples, acknowledge their vibrant cultures, and commit ourselves to learning from their wisdom in our journey to promote justice, equity, and mutual understanding. We pledge to stand alongside these communities in acknowledging past injustices and working towards a future that respects and celebrates the diverse heritage of this land. Now, if you would all please stand and join me in the flag salute.
The flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty.
All right, next up, we have one proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I'm going to turn over to the Deputy Mayor to read that proclamation.
Whereas domestic violence is a serious crime that affects people of all races, ages, gender identities, and socioeconomic backgrounds, and has a devastating impact on survivors, children, families, and the greater community. And whereas domestic violence remains one of the most prominent yet underreported crimes in the country that create long-lasting physical, emotional, and financial damage to individuals and families. And whereas the Kenmore City Council honors survivors, recognizing the bravery and support needed to break free from abuse, rebuild their lives, and heal from the physical, emotional, and psychological impacts of domestic violence. And whereas we all renew our commitment to end domestic violence and its destructive effects, so domestic violence has no future in Kenmore or beyond, because everyone deserves to live safe, supported lives filled with healthy relationship. And whereas in solidarity, we encourage residents to stop by City Hall to pick up purple LED lights to display these lights to bring awareness of domestic violence and support and show support of survivors throughout the community.
Now, therefore, I, Nigel Herbig, Mayor of the City of Kenmore, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2024 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month throughout the City of Kenmore. And to accept this resolution, we have, and I apologize, if I get this wrong, Janeria Binscombe Gill from LifeWire, Co-Executive Director for Organizational Operations. Come on up and say a few words.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, City Manager, and council members for recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Your support means so much to LifeWire and the survivors that we serve. This proclamation sends a powerful message. It lets the community know that we stand together against domestic violence, that we need to support survivors and keep working for change. This is not a private issue, it's a community issue. At LifeWire, we see the strength of survivors every day, but we can't do this alone, whether it's through awareness, supporting local services, or advocating for better protections. Everyone can make a difference. To anyone experiencing domestic violence, LifeWire wants you to know you are not alone. We believe in you, we stand with you, and there is help available. Thank you again for this recognition.
Thank you so much. Would you like to come on over and take a quick picture?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Your Honor, if I could add something? Yeah, so in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, our tradition is to light these dogwood trees out here with purple lights for the month of October. And our Public Works Operations team will be installing them first thing tomorrow, and they'll be on for the month. And we also plan on handing out purple light bulbs at the front counter for people to come and pick up and put on their own porches.
All right, thank you. Turning right back to you, Mr. City Manager, where is the fun?
Well, where's the fun? It happened about week before last when King County Metro announced the expansion of the MetroFlex van program. So MetroFlex is designed specifically for more suburban areas like ours, where we have what we call the last mile problem. And that is not a lot of bus service coming out to our lower density neighborhoods. And so to help with that, King County has come up with MetroFlex, which for the price of a bus fare or free if you're under 18, they will come at or near your house and pick you up and then take you to a place within the zone. Could be the park and ride, could be the grocery store, doctor, that type of thing. What's cool is we've had MetroFlex here in South Kenmore and Juanita for a while, but they had just announced it so that it'll be opening up to North Kenmore and in parts of Lake Forest Park and Briar and a little bit of Mount Lake Terrace. So with this expansion, most of Kenmore is now covered by MetroFlex. And this is the ceremony where elected officials announced its opening, and there's our very own Mayor Herbig giving a speech about Kenmore's, how Kenmore's benefiting from this.
Thank you. Yeah, we this was exciting because, like you said, South Kenmore had been covered for a while, and North Kenmore, which used to have a fixed route bus that ran through it probably more than a decade ago, hasn't had that service in a while. Folks, it's been difficult for folks to get down to 522 to grab the bus or go to the grocery store, or with now what we have with MetroFlex, go up to the Mount Lake Terrace light rail station there and jump on light rail to head, north to Linwood or south down to Seattle or the airport. So it's a wonderful thing. Download the app. They will pick you up. It's kind of like Uber, but way cheaper. And it's a really exciting thing. I've been bugging Metro quite a bit since they put it in South Kenmore. I kept asking, what about North Kenmore? And it was really nice to see this, to see them follow through. So exciting stuff. Next up, public comments. We want to welcome everybody to the council's meeting. We ask that you address your comments to the mayor and the council. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. The clerk will call your name when it is your turn. Please state your name and city of residence and keep within the allotted time to make every person feel welcome and safe here. Please refrain from booing, clapping, heckling, yelling, or other interruptions. The meeting is recorded for transparency. And again, thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your input respectfully. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. We have 6 guests on site wishing to speak and 0 guests registered online. Edward LaSalle, Richard Lewis, Patrick O'Brien, Tracy Benishinsky, Elizabeth Mooney, and Juliana Pooley.
Edward LaSalle, Kenmore. Dear Mayor, City Council members, and staff, I stand before you today urging you to approve and fully support the Imagining Housing Project. This project is not only crucial for addressing the housing needs of our working families, but also represents our second and possibly last serious chance to initiate and fulfill our affordable housing goals and legal obligations. As you know, our previous affordable housing project faced strong opposition from some residents, leading to its failure. We cannot afford to make the same mistake again. I feel this project has been carefully designed to address the concerns raised by residents and ensure it's a positive and welcomed addition to our community. Put plainly, this project aims to help hardworking families who just don't make enough to be able to make ends meet and still live in our wonderful city. Isn't that exactly what we all said we wanted for Kenmore and Kenmore residents time and time again? We have a legal and moral obligation to provide affordable housing for our working families. The Imagine project will create much needed housing options for those who have been priced out of the market. It will also help us further diversify our city and create a more inclusive community while providing high quality, stable residences. I urge you to consider the long-term benefits of the Imagine project. It will not only provide affordable housing, but also be an additional anchor to create jobs, boost the economy, and make Kenmore an even more attractive place to live for all. I implore you to approve the Imagine Housing project and seize this opportunity to start making a dent in our affordable housing goals and associated legal obligations. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis?
Good evening, Mayor Herbig and council members. I'm Richard Lewis, Kenmore. Coffee with Council has been a great opportunity to connect. 2 Coffee with Council meetings scheduled each month. One, of course, is the first Monday of the month, and the second one is the third Saturday of the month. Please make sure that at least one council member is in attendance at these meetings. Most recent council meeting or Coffee with Council had 6 participants, but no council member showed. That's not good. The other subject is the City Council recently stated that climate action will be the #1 City Council priority for next year. I have a question. Do the residents of Kenmore agree that climate change poses as an imminent threat to our health and well-being that deserves to be the #1 priority over all other concerns facing Kenmore? I don't recall climate change being at the top of the list of priorities for Kenmore residents or businesses. I would hope that the two would be in sync. Thank you.
Me? Is it me? All right, Pat O'Brien, Kenmore. Hello, I've missed you all. I do have some messages for you. First of all, I want to say that any giveaway of Kenmore-owned property should go to the voters. Anything over $500,000. You do not have a blank check to write to any organization without voter approval. You buy property, you under development, you do the wrong things. Kenmore Village, prime example of what was promised was not delivered, and a way huge expense to the city of Kenmore citizens. And now we've given away the rights to collect monies on the boathouse, and Deborah Shrebnick would know about that. So once again, a gift to a group. And there's no public buy-in on these giveaways. You got to get the voters to approve these things, or you have no basis to do it. You're giving away an asset you don't own. The public owns it. So stop it. If somebody wants to buy a property you own for $3.2 million, you better get $3.2 million for it and maybe give them some extra height or something to incentivize them rather than having it come right out of our coffers, because you're complaining You're complaining about not having enough money, and yet you're spending money like a drunken sailor. It's just absolutely ridiculous. The maintenance facility, I was not questioned since I would not consent to have a Zoom meeting with who the city hired to do that. It was covered up. It said, oh, we exonerated the city of any wrongdoing, and that's total bull. I got a letter from Don Raton saying, oh yeah, we found no improprieties. Well, we know there's improprieties. We know for a fact there is, and none of the staff was going to be, or at least I asked, are they going to be under oath when they testify as to what happened and how it happened and why it happened? And no, it's a cover-up. Everyone knows it's a cover-up that was watching those proceedings, and it's a stain on Rob Carlindsey and his pushing through these types of things behind the scenes, working without the public support or knowledge. And now we've got the maintenance facility going to where, an area that was wetlands out of the area. We could have had the old fire station, but Sound Transit's going to get that, build a very large parking garage there in the flight of the herons. And you all say, oh, we love the heron, that's our mascot. And yet you're going to, through your actions, allow a large parking lot to go in their flight path. It's total baloney.
Thank you. Tracy Benishinsky.
Tracy Benishinsky, Kenmore. Good evening, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I come in support of the Approach Affordable Housing Project to be developed in partnership with Imagine Housing and Habitat for Humanity. I very much hope that this project can make it through these stages to fully built and filled with the individuals and families who need it both at most. I'll be rooting for it to be so. I do have one concern about the requirement that the project not make use of a development agreement. On the one hand, I see the wisdom of eliminating the mechanism by which the Plymouth Affordable Housing Project was ultimately rejected. On the other hand, the original conceptual proposal for Imagine Housing and Habitat for Humanity was for 152 units, and we are now getting around 123. I wonder if we could get those 19 additional units if we allowed some reasonable deviation from our code. Don't know what that deviation might be, but the two incentives I hear talked about most often in conjunction with affordable housing concern height and parking requirements. Could 7 stories instead of 6 fit in that space to facilitate more affordable housing? Or could we let some parking spaces go given the proximity to amenities and transit? I also wonder if a lack of flexibility could come back to hurt us in some other way. Something I would really rather avoid if it means continuing to hurt people who need this housing. Mostly, I'm just really glad that this project is underway, and I hope it becomes a reality for our community. It would be a net good. Thank you so much for your consideration and for your continued leadership. I appreciate you all. Thank you so very much.
Juliana Pooley, Kenmore. Thank you, Kenmore City Council. I'm commenting today in support of the Imagine Housing Project. In his 1944 State of the Union address, President Roosevelt declared that housing is a human right. In 1948, the United States signed the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, recognizing adequate housing as a component of the human right to adequate standard of living. Now we have a national and regional housing crisis, and locally we have Washington HB 1220 pushing us to build and expand housing in our cities. The crushing burden of the housing crisis is all around us. It's in our unhoused neighbors that we can see in our community spaces. It's in our elderly parents moving in with children. It's the vulnerable adults staying in dangerous relationships and in homes because they can't move out or afford a place on their own. We likely all know adults and families who are doubled up in housing or who are compromising their lifelong dreams of children or further education because of the rising cost of housing has become too prohibitive. With all that being said, I'm thrilled to support the Imagine Housing Project. I welcome more affordable housing options in my downtown neighborhood, and I'm excited that these residents will have easy access to shops, pharmacies, and local transit. I know the severity of our region's housing crisis requires more from Kenmore than these 100 or so units, but I'm optimistic that the affordable transit accessible housing projects like this can save lives and stabilize families. Please support the Imagine Housing Project. Thank you.
Hi, council and staff and citizens. Elizabeth Mooney, citizen of Kenmore, and I live over in the 61st Avenue area, which I consider is the Chitchathel watershed area. It connects Kenmore, Lake Washington, Lake Forest Park, Briar, and unincorporated Snohomish County. So thanks to citizen Jim Howard and our staff city engineer, John Vicente, I'm learning a lot more, and I appreciate it about the project that's at 30%, and I guess it's headed to 60%. But I'm going to ask you, council, to direct staff to slow it down so that the community, which is very disjointed, just because it's hard to get together, unless there's an issue, then we all come in here. But I'm here to say I will help find people to come and brainstorm about this, and I'll try to tell you why. I think we should have a community meeting regarding the sidewalk project from 190th North, at least. Such a meeting would help people talk together, maybe even on site in City Hall. PERC could put together a meeting in City Hall. This is a complicated and evolving project. It evolved from repairing a sidewalk rendered bumpy and unusable for baby strollers, people walking in the dark. It's a safety issue for everybody because of the tree roots. The trees are the red leaf maples. Meanwhile, our city proposed policy for tree protection that is getting attention by master builders, not my favorite subject right now, which is mainly getting this to be even more complicated. I want to save trees, but I also don't want to do something that just turns into a big mess for budget and not even solving the problem that we have around Chitchathel and climate change, et cetera. The problem I am focusing on right now is the Chitchathel watersheds, streets and sidewalks. To have a safe sidewalk, tree roots have to be impacted. And I have an arborist who could assist this now, at least maybe. We have a city with a budget deficit that we're concerned about. What is the best course of action now to fix the sidewalks and save the trees we can, or embark on a much more expensive project to improve the 61st corridor with something like pocket parks, and maybe roundabouts and native trees? Clearly, there is probably not a single solution to please the whole community, but I believe it is worth postponing the decision to bring people together to go forward with the sidewalks and the safety, the traffic issues, make the sidewalks safe for everyone, remove the minimum number of trees, just get it done. And I'm happy to help to put together a brainstorming community meeting, but postpone the bigger project, please, and maintain the multiple options for the improvement of the corridor and working together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes our speakers list.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. The chair would entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? The consent agenda stands approved unanimously. This brings us to the business agenda. First item, letter of intent with Imagine Housing presented by Community Development Director Debbie Bent, Housing and Human Services Manager Tamby Cork, and Imagine Housing and project team. I will leave it to staff to introduce all of their partners from Imagine Housing.
Thank you, Mayor. And while our guests are getting situated, can we take a 5-minute break? We need to reboot our Zoom portal.
Sure, we will stand in recess until 7:27.
Thank you.
a short presentation we'd like to go through, and after that, we are here to answer any questions you may have. The goal this evening is for council to pass a motion authorizing the city manager to execute the letter of intent with Imagine Housing. A letter of intent is a non-binding legal document. However, the terms outlined in the letter of intent will then be used to negotiate a legally binding purchase and sale agreement. But just to set that as context for the discussion this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to Tambi.
Good evening, Council. I'm just going to walk us through a little bit about the history of how we got here this evening. So we're here to speak about a new development that is proposed for the city of Kenmore that is known as, has been named the Approach at Kenmore. This is an affordable housing community. It's a unique partnership between Imagine Housing and Habitat for Humanity. In just a few minutes, I'll pass it over to that project team to tell you a little bit more about it. But we are very excited about the mixture of ownership and rental opportunities, the ability to have a community or commercial ground floor space, that there's a mixture of unit sizes, and that this is a very walkable site with access to downtown and transit. This project we've been working on intently for the past year or so, but it really began and is a culmination of several years of efforts by staff, which are based on the City Council's priorities of the past 4 years. Beginning in the 2021-2022 biennium, affordable housing became the #1 priority for the City Council. And we were directed as staff to not just plan, but to also look at undeveloped lots and other city-owned properties that could be used to actually get units built here in Kenmore. And so that is what we have been doing. And again, this is a culmination of many of those efforts. For this specific property, the city purchased this property in 2022. So while the staff was working on thinking about available lots here in the city of Kenmore, we also had the opportunity to, coincidentally, at the same time, just 2 doors down, the vacant lot that has been known as the Holt property became available for purchase. My understanding is that this is a property that the city has been eyeing for years, really wanting to add some vibrancy to this part of the downtown area. And so this was a really great opportunity to take what has been an empty lot for decades and repurpose it into something that can really create community here for the city of Kenmore. This property was purchased with a combination of general fund balance and strategic opportunities fund reserve. And so the sale price of $1.45 million has been set to replenish those general fund dollars, while also, of course, being at a discounted rate, not the full sale price or the full purchase price, acknowledging the public benefit that affordable housing will have in this community. For this specific project, as I just said, we purchased the property back in 2022. It's right here, just a few doors down by City Hall. Back in the fall of 2023, we issued an RFP, a request for proposals, setting some terms of things that we are interested in seeing developers put into that property. We received 2 responses, and the Imagine Housing and Habitat for Humanity joint proposal was selected. In December, we came before you, the City Council, and you all approved that selection and directed us to move forward with negotiations for the property sale agreements and other necessary agreements. We've been back a few times in March and June talking about how those negotiations have been proceeding, including that while we had initially envisioned a building that would require a development agreement, we have been working with Imagine Housing and Habitat for Humanity to bring forward a code compliant project. With that, I will hand it over to Yi Zhao, the Executive Director of Imagine Housing, to introduce his project team and tell you a little bit more about this development.
Hi, I'm Yi Zhao. I'm the Executive Director of Imagine Housing, and I'll let my team kind of introduce themselves.
Hi, Council. Thank you for having us. I'm Rebecca Wold. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Habitat for Humanity, Seattle King, Kittitas County.
My name is Troy Draws. I'm the Director of Real Estate Development for Imagine Housing.
And I'm Mike Rooney, Principal Rooney Partners for the development consultant on the project.
And on the phone with us, we have Kate Smith with SMR Architects, and we may have Molly Mahan from WG Clark in the audience. We also have John Woodworth from SMR Architects.
So to kind of talk a bit about the two different parts of this development for the Imagine Housing side of this, we're looking at 120-ish units is what we're going to be proposing within the LOI. This will be affordable units for households who are making incomes between 50 to 60% of the area median income with a mix of studios, 2s and 3s, really thinking about kind of those working families. And what 50 to 60% AMI translates into is that this is set annually by HUD and King County, and it looks at family sizes. So for a single person household, that's someone making $52,000. And for a 4-person household at the upper end of the 60% area median income, that's about $97,000. So really thinking about kind of working families here in the community. And I will pass it to Rebecca about the Habitat portion.
Thanks, He. So Habitat will be providing the affordable for sale housing that we're offering in this development. There would be 18 to 20 homes. They would be mostly 2 and 3 bedroom, also with 1 bedrooms. This would be affordable to households up to 80% AMI, though the typical Habitat buyer is around 65% AMI. We set the mortgages so that they're affordable to the buyer. Once they qualify, then they get an affordable mortgage and they can stay as long as they want. But when they decide to leave, we buy back that condominium and we make sure that there's a new household, family, individual who income qualifies, who buys that condominium. So these would be permanently affordable homeownership in your community. We're excited to be here. Thank you.
So any partnership that does a venture like this has to be well-defined. It's fairly complicated, especially when you're dealing with multiple condominiums. Our project has 3 components. It has the rental housing, it has the for sale housing, and it also has a community commercial component on the ground floor. I know originally we had proposed kind of an ownership structure with a partner that would be a community service provider. We're still looking at that, but at this point, we really look at it would be a sublease to a community service partner, which is yet to be determined. But we're working diligently to identify somebody who will bring services into the community, not just for the residents of the project, but also to serve the community as a whole. And then you can see kind of how a structure of how we work is Imagine Housing is basically the master developer working in close partnership with Habitat for Humanity, and then we have a development consultant, Mike Rooney here, and his brother James at Rooney Partners that provide additional resources for us, since this is fairly complicated with multiple condominiums and LLCs that have to be put in place. And then the design work is done by SMR Architects, and general contractor is slated to be WG Clark. Amby?
So next, we'll just go over some of the components that are outlined in the letter of intent. The letter of intent document is included in your packets. So first of all, briefly talk about the timeline and what's going to happen over the next few years between now and certificate of occupancy. So at the end of this year, we will receive a community engagement plan. And also, we are anticipating execution of a purchase and sale agreement early in 2025 and a property sale transfer at the end of 2025. We'll talk a little bit later about what that community engagement effort looks like. So between 2025 and 2027, Imagine Housing will be getting their permit packages put together to submit those to the city by January 1st of 2027. And then they'll be also working on securing project funding by the end of 2027. In 2028, Imagine would then close on their construction financing by June, the end of June 2028. And they would also need to secure all their permits by that same date, June of 2028. And then between 2028 and 2031, they would be actually under construction, building the project, with the goal of obtaining a certificate of occupancy by December of 31. So this timeline reflects what is needed to A, prepare permits, obtain permits, and go out to funders to obtain their funding and to obtain their construction financing. So this is a realistic timeframe. Then some of the things that are outlined in the letter of intent are the project details. And right now, it would be a project of at least 103 rental units and at least 18 ownership units. We recognize that this is still pretty early on in the project design, so we have recognized there is flexibility, that this number of units may vary by about 10% up or down. Imagine and Habitat outlined what that affordability component would look like and what that income range would look like for both the rental component and the ownership component. So this is really like any other multifamily housing project. The only distinction is that you earn a little bit less to live there. It's the only distinction that we can see. It was very important that we have a code compliant project. Why is that? It's like any other project that we have under development. We always look to having it comply with the code first. So we work really hard to get this project into compliance. And yes, it did result in a loss of several units, but it is now based on a pre-application meeting that was held in July, a code compliant project, and that is the commitment going forward. Recognizing also a commitment for ground floor space. While it is not a code provision, this was something that was felt very important from the council, that there should be either a commercial or a community ground floor space, and Imagine is committed to make a good faith effort to lease space on the ground floor to a nonprofit service provider. Last thing, let's talk a little bit about the temporary access easement. Right now, there is sort of informally people from the mobile home park cross that property to get to 181st Street, sort of as a quick access to get to Safeway. So we have asked Imagine if they would grant a temporary access easement back to the city to continue that north-south access, at least until the start of construction, so that that shortcut can still be in place. Obviously, once construction starts, that will go away, but there's then a commitment to continue to provide that north-south access upon project completion. So other things, and Tammy mentioned this, the purchase price is also included in the letter of intent at 1.5 million to be paid by the buyer at closing. And as Tammy mentioned, this is selling the property at a discount, recognizing the importance of that public benefit of providing affordable housing. So a feasibility contingency, and this might get into a little bit of legal business here, but really what it's saying is it's outlining how long the buyer has to close on the property. So this is basically outlining that time frame so that there is some certainty about when that closing date will occur. The other thing that is included in this is what happens in the event that the seller, the city, defaults on this deal going forward. If the seller defaults, then the buyer will receive their earnest money back, $25,000, and up to $250,000 of verified development costs. This number is typical in a sort of a commercial real estate deal. That's how we came up with that number. In the event of a buyer default, then the only remedy then is for the city to retain that $25,000 earnest money. And lastly, let's talk a little bit about the buyback provision. So this allows the city to be able to buy back the property if the seller, so the city to buy back the property if the buyer doesn't close on financing by June 30th of 2028. Obviously, after financing, then things are a little bit more secure and in place. So that's why that's why the timeline is put on there prior to construction financing. So those are some of the key terms highlighted, but again, the full document is included in your packet.
We'll close out by just talking a little bit about community engagement. As Debbie mentioned, it is not required by code that there be additional community engagement as a component of this code compliant project, but it has been a request of the city that both the Imagine Project team and that the city itself engage in additional outreach and communication with our community about the details of this development. So the Imagine and their project team will be providing a community engagement plan by the end of this year. I'll let them talk a little bit about some things that are already in works in the near future. You'll note on the screen, there's the city's website is available for additional details, including the RFP, the letter of intent links, et cetera. Imagine has a website with some FAQs that kind of spell out some of the things that they've shared tonight around what does 50% AMI mean, who will be eligible to live here in terms of income thresholds. And then we'll continue to also spread the word about this partnership through the city communications. We've been before this council specifically on this development 3 times in December, March, and June. We'll continue to come back and give you updates on how things are going and link those presentations and YouTube videos onto our website. We had an article in the Kenmore Quarterly that goes out to every city address, and we'll intend to continue to have updates regularly in those in that printed publication, because we know that is the one communication that goes to each of the households here. And then Troy, do you want to talk a little bit about December?
Yeah, for us, as we work through our developments, one of the things that's important to us about being involved in the community. So for this year, Imagine Housing has decided to be the presenting sponsor for the Kenmore Holiday Market, because we really want to be, as we're working here, we want to be a part of this community and be involved. And some of the more community engagement things that we are planning, just looking ahead, we're looking to book some space at a hangar to be able to host some in-person meetings, hosting some virtual meetings. We've actually already started purchasing mailing addresses for every resident in Kenmore to make sure that when these we're going to be putting out postcards, inviting them to all these community engagements so that everyone can have the opportunity to be heard as we work through this.
All right, and with that, we do have a motion for your consideration, which would be authorizing the city manager to execute the letter of intent with Imagine Housing. But before then, I, of course, will pause for some questions.
Questions? Councilmember Culver.
Mic back on. Thank you. And apologies in advance. I do have several. Let me say up front, I'm in full support of this project moving forward. I want to see it succeed. In that regard, I guess I do have a few questions more about the how and not the if. It's a yes, but just some clarifications. From the letter of intent, the exclusive piece on page 16, item number 17, I guess, it says, seller will not enter into negotiations with another party for a period of 75 days. Going further to say, this shall constitute the only binding portion of the letter of intent. I'm just curious, what does that serve, or like what does that provide for the city, I guess? Why would we include that in a letter of intent, I guess?
So you're reading directly from, it's page 6 of 9 of the letter of intent and the brokers. So this is just being basically upfront about who are the brokers for this. And Mike Rooney is a licensed broker, but he's not receiving any compensation. Oh, I'm sorry, they said 60.
Yes, thank you, yes.
So I think this is basically saying that it's basically saying that there will be no negotiations going on with any other parties until we get the executed purchase contract in place.
Okay, 10-4. Also in item number 6, expectations, code compliance, we've spoken to this, and I spoke to this a bit last week. I would prefer to give that flexibility and that kind of space to operate. And just trying to brainstorm something that was also mentioned in the public comments, what would a, let's call it a worst case scenario, happen if we are foregoing the development agreement project and something late comes up that might necessitate one? I assume we would move forward with one, right? Or what could that potentially look like?
Well, you're talking about what ifs, and right now, the letter of intent is saying it shall be a code compliant project. That is written in there that it will be a code compliant project. The flexibility given in there is on the number of units. That's the flexibility that we've given. And again, these terms have all been reviewed by both parties. So would a development agreement come up? Not under this scenario.
Okay. Other things on community engagement. I'm glad to see this. I know this has been something we've raised some concerns about in the past. I guess I would just like to see us go a little further and hark back to the UW Capstone a report that they delivered saying in part, it's a good part to demonstrate the public benefits of these projects on multiple levels, saying local leaders can be influential in demonstrating these benefits to the community, be it council members, local business owners, or the community leaders with a strong presence. So I don't know that it needs to be in the language specifically, but I wouldn't mind seeing us kind of step up and put a person or two forward to say, yep, we believe in this, we're backing this, et cetera. A couple other things. Oh, the feasibility contingency. So it says that if the buyer decides to terminate the contract, then all plans, specifications, drawings, studies, reports, surveys, et cetera, shall be assigned to us at no cost. Frankly, I wouldn't mind seeing that removed. I mean, sure, we can ask for those things and, you know, it wouldn't hurt in that contingency, but I think if that's work that they're commissioning up front on their end, like easily potentially to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, I'm a little concerned putting that in up front, I guess, to take that. So I would just add that as a comment. But I will stop there. I'm excited to support this. So thank you all.
Other comments, questions? Councilmember Sassen.
Just quickly to Councilmember Culver's point, I believe in this. I support this. As a council member, it is an honor to be able to support this project.
Other comments or questions? Deputy Mayor, is that, oh, okay. Yeah, I want to echo what my colleagues have already said. I'm a big fan of this project. I'm looking forward to this going forward, not just to, you know, open up and actually be using a unused field right now, but also housing people. I think it's super important. I think this is a wonderful location for just this sort of project. So I'm really excited to see this move forward. Unless there are any other questions, the chair will entertain a motion to authorize the city manager to sign the letter of intent with Imagine Housing.
So moved.
Councilmember Shrubnik had her hand
Oh,
raised.
I apologize. I didn't see that. Councilmember Shrubnik?
No problem. I was a little late. Sorry. I love this project. I love the mix of units. I think it's terrific that we're getting into the 50 to 60% AMI level. That's crucial. It's hard to fill that gap. So this is terrific. I'm excited about the ground floor use that will serve the community as well as the residents. And I'm deeply appreciative of the work that staff have done and the project team has done to make this a code compliant project. That is not an easy thing to do in all cases. And we try, you know, our code is there for a reason. And I again, just want to deeply appreciate the work and the thought that went into trying to make this work within our existing code. So thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I also want to express gratitude for all who have worked on this incredibly important project. Incredibly thankful for our community that there will be 2 and 3 bedrooms in this project, as well as this long-term affordable purchasing opportunity. It's visionary, it's important, and I hope to see more of these projects in the city of Kenmore going forward. This is a wonderful way of creating access to affordable housing. I'm thankful to all that you do and that we have the opportunity to work with you.
Any further comments, questions? All right, now the chair will entertain a motion authorizing the city manager to execute the letter of intent with Imagine Housing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Councilor Marshall.
This is something of an historic moment, and I'm in full support of this project. I think it looks very good. in a way, it's not historic because this council and our prior couple councils have gone to bat for more options for people who need it for housing, like preserving our mobile home parks. I mean, we have gone to bat for this type of project. On occasion, I can disagree about what I think has caused the crisis or the prices to increase. I mean, my family goes back in Seattle for well over 100 years. Doesn't make me any more authoritative, but we have a family memory of things. There's booms, there's busts. Right now, we're in the midst of a massive boom. Still, things could change on that. There's also a generational squeeze. I read somewhere, seemingly authoritative, that about a third of homeowners, single-family homeowners in the United States now are still baby boomers, which is somewhat different than I think the way things used to be in terms of a generational spread. But and in reality, that's going to start to change bit by bit eventually, but it's not going to change soon enough that we shouldn't try to do something about it. And I don't think we're going to solve the whole problem, but you know what? Why shouldn't we try as best we can here?
Any further discussion? Seeing none, would the clerk please take the roll?
On the motion authorizing the city manager to execute the letter of intent with Imagine Housing, Councilmember Shrubnik,
Yes.
Councilmember Marshall,
Yes.
Councilmember Sassen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lutsis,
Yes.
Councilmember Culver,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Kane,
Yes.
Mayor Herbig.
Yes. The motion is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, proposed ordinance 24-0614, capital improvement program for parks, transportation, service, water management, and city facilities, presented by Finance Administration Director Melinda Merrill, Community Development Director Debbie Bent, and Engineering Director John Vicente, and Environmental Services Director Richard Sawyer, and Public Works Operation Director Jennifer Gordon. May need a bigger table.
Good evening, council. Thank you for everybody that is joining me today to help answer questions. We are going to be talking about the capital improvement program for the 6 years of 2025 to 2030. I know there was a lot of materials that you received in the packet, so this is just going to be a summary of that information. And this is the first of a couple more times that we will be coming forward with this information. So in our current capital improvement program, there are a total of 44 projects totaling over 105 million, almost $106 million. You can see we have 6 projects within the parks program, 15 in transportation, 21 in surface water management, and the 1 facilities project, which is the Public Works Operations Center. So details on the parks parks projects. There's 6 of them. 3 of them are really at this point just monitoring and mitigation efforts. That's for the Tlawadi's Log Boom and Rhododendron Park. And then there's signage that needs replacement for Rhododendron Park, and there's a project for turf replacement at Morelands, and then a feasibility study for an accessible playground. So those are the 3 programs. I don't know if anybody has any questions on the parks programs.
Questions?
So here is a description by year of the costs and the associated funding. So at this point, we're not planning on using any fund balance or anything for the parks projects. All funded through dollars coming in. Any questions on the numbers? Okay, transportation. There's a lot more going on in transportation. So as I mentioned, transportation has 15 projects valued at over $38 million. So a lot of these you've seen before. Some are new from last year. Let me move to the next sheet so we can see the numbers. So here's a breakdown of all the costs. And there's quite a bit happening in 25 and 26. John's going to be busy. So John, I'll turn it over to you if you have any specifics you want to speak to in yours.
Nothing specific unless council has questions.
Councilor Marshall?
So for instance, for 61st, the money proposed for 2025, that's in the projects, and I know you've gone over this, so please forgive me, but the project's going to start next year. Is that right? For 61st?
So phase 1 for 61st, we should be going to construction next year. And then we have that phase 2 that is south of 190th for increasing the buffer for the stream, assuming the state gives us the funding. We're expecting it next year.
Okay. I will move on to the next one. And this one is balanced as well, but it is anticipating grants to be applied for that we do not have yet, but we are anticipating getting funding to help support these projects. There's our surface water list. Quite a long list. So as I mentioned, 21 projects, almost $39 million. And so I will move to the next slide. So a lot of things happening. Same as in transportation, we are anticipating grant money that has yet to be secured. So we are going to be relying on some grant money to help manage these costs, as well as bond proceeds for the culvert projects. And that would be drawn down as the need arises, depending on the speed of the projects. So I'll see if there's any questions for myself or for Richard.
Questions? I assume a lot of the programs that we're seeing in here are funded through the Rapid Progress
Right.
Plus.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes, it's based on that model.
It is nice to see so many culvert projects all at once in here. That's exciting.
Next up, our Public Works Operations Center. The design and construction needs to happen, as well as going out for the bonds. So the plan is to secure the bonds by the end of the year, and then we will have to start paying. So you can see the debt repayment beginning in 2025, approximately $1.8 million. Ongoing, and those funding sources will be from the SWIM funds and from REIT. Any questions on the Public Works Operations Center?
Questions?
Here's just the whole list all together, a little summary of information. So this is showing all the expenditures, all in one page, and then all of the revenues. It's the same information, it's just presented differently to give you the total numbers in front of you. And then here is information showing the resources coming in to help pay for all these projects. So you can see we have state grants of 28 million anticipated, almost 10 million in other grants, SWIM funds of 12.3 million, CAPE funds of 4.4 million, debt 8.8, REIT 12 million, impact fees of 3 million, and then some carryover dollars. Any questions on the funding sources?
Questions?
So tonight, we have presented some overview of the information, and of course, you've received a lot of details in the packet. The 7th of October will be a public hearing, and we'll have the same information for you to look at and have questions about, and then potential adoption on the 14th. Any questions or concerns about the timeline or anything?
I think I saw Councilmember Shrubnik's hand go up. Councilmember Shrubnik.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just a quick question, and it's actually way back on the parks. Apologize. I just was curious, where did we leave the idea of looking into a park in either Northeast Kenmore or Big Fin Hill for a dog park? And I don't know whether that would be a feasibility study, sort of like we're doing for the accessible park, or some other initiative.
It is not listed as a capital improvement project. We are still working with King County to see if Big Fin Hill is feasible, and with the city of Bothell to see what their plans are. And right now there is no movement in that direction. So there is no money allocated in this current CIP for feasibility study.
And if I could just add, I have a meeting with King County Parks and Rec Director Warren Jimenez later at the end of October to talk about the future parks levy, and dog park will be one of the topics.
Great, thank you.
So that's all we have for tonight, unless you have any other questions.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor.
Not a question, just some words of appreciation. It's so nice to see all this work that we've been talking about for the past year or two put together in a budget like this. It's exciting, and I'm really looking forward to getting through this budget period. So thank you for your efforts, and you know, it's a good presentation when we don't have a bunch of questions. So thank you.
Thanks to everybody here. Thanks, you guys.
Thank you very much. Brings us to tonight's main event, budget presentation, estimates of current 2023-2024 revenues and expenditures, and estimates of proposed 2025-26 revenues and expenditures, presented by Finance Administration Director Melinda Merrill.
Good evening again. So I'm here to kick off the start of the budget presentations. So I want to let you know or remind you, for those of you who've heard this before, this presentation is just a high-level overview of revenues and expenditures by fund. We will do deeper dives throughout the month of October. So you will be hearing lots more in details on this. So tonight is a good night to look at things that maybe catch your eye, what you might have more questions on. As we dive into these different funds and into the general fund cost centers, you'll have an opportunity to really see a lot more that's happening besides these high level numbers. So just wanted to let you know that. It's not shown on here, it's not highlighted, but if you look at Fund 001, which is our general fund, and go across to the total final column for the biennium, you can see revenues are 35.1 million and expenditures are 37.7. So there's a disconnect there. And a good question would be, why? So that should be your first question. And I will remind you that we also look at, in conjunction with the general fund, we look at the street fund together. So we typically consider those in conjunction with each other. And if you look at the street fund and go across, that has a revenue of 2.7 million and expenditures of 3.1 million. So total disconnect is about a little over $3 million. So why is that? It's intentional. And we are utilizing in this budget a little over $2 million of special project money. So we have that money is available from remaining unspent or remaining dollars, not unspent, remaining dollars that were used by ARPA to pay for the police costs. And so we have extra general fund dollars. So so we are being intentional about those monies and saying, okay, for one-time expenditures, we will use $2 million from the special projects money. And then the remaining is certain overspends within both general fund and the street fund that, again, are determined to be important at this time to spend these dollars, and knowing that we are basically following the financial sustainability plan that also had us in a deficit going into this biennium, with the intent and knowing we are going to be bringing in more revenues, right? We have other intents on bringing additional revenues in over the next 5 to 6 years. So it's important that we do that, right? And we came earlier this year with some ideas on doing levies and things like that. That didn't happen, but those things are going to need to happen to help fund our sustainability long-term. But for now, we have a good fund balance. And so we feel it's okay to go ahead and have a deficit in our budget, but it can't continue. Like, we're going to have a balanced budget. We're going to have more revenue coming in. Okay, so that's my soapbox about the general fund. Strategic reserves fund, not spending anything there. That's just bringing in interest money. Strategic opportunities, not spending that. At least no intents, again, for the next biennium. Street fund is business as usual. Cape fund, big jump in the Cape. As you know, it was approved at an earlier meeting this just not too long ago to increase all of our Cape activities. So you see those dollars reflected in 25-26. Public art fund, small projects there. Transportation benefit district is business as usual. ARPA, we closed out the ARPA fund, so that is not having any more costs or revenues happening, and that fund has been shut down. Debt service, that is just principal and interest happening, and that just continues. Transportation capital, you just saw that. Real estate excise tax, REIT, is helping fund certain capital projects as usual. The bond project fund, that's really just bringing in interest at this point in time. Park capital, you saw that a minute ago. Park impact fees help pay for park capital activities. Transportation impact fees help pay for transportation activities. Some Amish Bridge replacement, not much happening there. That's just wrapping up. Public Works Ops Center, the 1.8 in costs coming up for the debt. Affordable housing is a new fund that was created, I think last year, and it's just collecting housing funds in lieu of fees that we get on certain projects. We're not anticipating any more dollars coming in the next biennium, but there is a little bit of money there. The Lake Point Fund. So this is dollars set aside, and again, is impacting obviously some general fund monies, not a lot, but it has some general fund impact. And this is to continue the work that's been started, and assuming that things continue forward with Lake Point, there will be dollars that need to be spent there. I don't know if you guys want to if you have any questions about that particular one at this point.
Councilor Culver?
Thank you. Yeah. Just to clarify, was this something that we had budgeted for in 2024, this Lake Point Fund?
No, this is new. This projection of 2.2 is new.
2.2 million. Okay. I will have other questions, but I will yield for now. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll be proposing to create this new fund by ordinance in November as part of the mid-biennium budget amendments. And this is all dependent on whether we have a purchase and sale agreement with the seller.
Surface water, you saw, the capital, which is in conjunction with surface water and the revenues we bring in there. Swamp Creek Basin is just, mitigation, monitoring happening. And then our equipment replacement fund, we have bumped that up a bit. We are adding in $120,000 a year set aside for building preservation. So that's a new set aside that we have budgeted for. I think that is all for these numbers.
Councilor Sassen?
I'm just curious where we will see that, where, and I think when, because maybe it's not this biennium, but maybe it's 2026, I lost track, where that 1.5 million from the Imagine Housing property will come into our budget? Or where you're gonna put that?
Go ahead, Rob.
We don't have it budgeted yet because we don't have a signed purchase and sale agreement. So we thought it was wise not to budget for that revenue. But if there's a purchase and sale agreement early next year, then they have about 6 months plus another 90 days to close. So we could see that 1.5 million possibly by the end of next year. My recommendation is for it to go back into the strategic opportunities fund.
Nobody else has their hand up. I have one small question and you almost covered it. I thought you were about to, but you didn't. I'm really curious about the $62,000 worth of expenses in the arts fund in 2025. Is there something going on in 2025?
62, oh, in the arts fund.
Yeah, just kind of jumped out like a sore
Going to
thumb.
speak to that, Rob.
Just trying to figure out what we're doing.
Well, can we answer that question next week when we bring out all the details of the proposed budget?
Okay.
But just to as a sneak preview, Arts of Kenmore is proposing some pretty cool things. So we have it in there, and also we have some money in for a possible mural.
All right. Yeah, sorry to steal any thunder. Any further questions? Councilmember Culver.
Thank you. Yeah, this is a little bigger picture than just this budget cycle. But knowing that we found ourselves in a financial pickle or two, there's ways to get around this, right? So one of those being there's a couple different accounting systems. There's the cash basis, and then there's accrual accounting, which I'm going to boil this down and probably butcher it, but essentially it's a bit more, I guess, intentional and disciplined and saying, nope, if we're spending money, we need to know exactly where that's coming from. Like, sort of forces you to do that up front, I guess, as an exercise rather than kind of reactive or after the fact or whatever you want to call that. Is that something we have looked at potentially doing? And I guess further qualifying that, is that like a 1 out of 10? It's very easy, or like a 10 out of 10, we're gonna need 15 full-time interns and lots of espresso. Like any vague sense you could give there would be helpful, but yeah.
I could use that right now, by the way, but so we're currently cash basis. I wasn't quite sure I understood your whole question, but we are currently cash basis accounting. And I've never worked at a place that switched from one to the other, so I can't even imagine what that might entail if we said, oh, we should switch to accrual basis now. I imagine, yeah, it would take some good project management to change the way you account for things. So I've not, since I've been here, I've not felt like it's been problematic as far as knowing and managing the cash flows. But it is really helpful when you do accrual basis accounting so you can see, what's coming, and what's going, but.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. We look forward to
More to
everything next
come.
week too. Staff report.
Yeah, so the exciting thing is the budget. We're required to provide this high level look at expenditures and revenues, which Melinda just did. But the 300+ page details will be presented to you a week from tonight. And we'll actually hand deliver the hard copies to you. The 3 ring binders, will be presenting those to you a week from Monday night. So you won't even get it uploaded before. It'll actually be presented to you in hard copy form that night, Monday night. But it's presenting a big document like that that's so complex and interconnected is no small thing. And I'm going to be doing this several times over the next few months, but I want to recognize and thank Melinda Morel, who's really been burning the midnight oil, as her coworkers as well have been working really hard. A couple of them are here in the audience. Carla Schnee and Julie Yinger are here. They've been working really hard on the budget. And we're just really excited to present it next Monday. It's going to be a very meaningful document with marvelous things in it. So I can't wait to present it. Working on the budget letter still that goes with it. Instead of the traditional 30 or 40 pages, my coworkers convinced me to knock it down to 18. But still bring your jammies and slippers because I will read it all on Monday night. It's really important, I think, for you guys to hear every word of it. And then after that, in the weeks following, the departments will be giving their presentations on the budget. And then the hope is that the budget will be adopted right before Thanksgiving. Technically, legally, you have until December 31st to adopt the budget, but before Thanksgiving is always a nice goal. So that's all I have.
All right. Council reports and comments. Councilmember Culver.
Thank you. First, in accordance with our work to honor the First Peoples and stand alongside these communities in acknowledging past injustices, I want to recognize today, September 30th, as Orange Shirt Day, also known as Truth and Reconciliation Day for Indigenous boarding school children who never made it home. I would encourage folks to visit orangeshirtday.org and boardingschoolhealing.org to learn more. Thing number 2, a clarification on the rental registration as discussed last week. Just to be clear, staff had already put the time into researching this policy. My understanding is it's probably not a prohibitive amount of work to simply bring that research back for consideration in front of this new council. Just a copy and paste in the agenda bill, I would think, hopefully not chaotic, but with a clear understanding laid out and giving that both tenants and landlords alike wanted this policy, I would pose the question again. I would like to bring this back for discussion and would kindly ask for a second.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting. It's a special meeting, and without it being on the agenda, we cannot propose new matters for a final disposition. This, of course, could be brought up at a regular meeting.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And just to clarify, we wouldn't vote tonight, but just for discussion, that's off too.
What I heard was a request for a motion, and the motion and discussion and the vote would be a final disposition.
We do have to gather consensus and or a majority.
10-4. Cool. Thank you for clarifying. Finally, I have heard from several residents who received eviction notices as a result of us rolling back our just cause tenant protections. And just to make sure we fully understand, this is policy that will be used to kick residents out into the street. My question is, did we do any kind of outreach to tenants? I know transparency is important for us, so I'm just hoping that those eviction notices weren't the very first they were hearing about it. Okay, and thus concludes National Month for Renters. That's all I got. Thank you.
Councilor Marshall.
Yes, you all have probably noticed a playground going in at the new apartments on 68th, and I was very pleased to see that. And I think I've been told already, but I can't remember, is it going to be open to the public? Do we know? It is. You know what? That makes me want to exclaim with great and loud joy. I will avoid that, but I'm very happy to see that. That's awesome.
Councilor Assassin.
Yes, 2 things. One, I want to reflect on our citizens' comment about there being about coffee with council, mostly for people not in this room, but online, and Richard in particular, who's not here anymore. I am the sole council person who attends Monday Coffee with Council. I am not available this coming Monday, the first Monday in October, so there will be no coffee with council this coming Monday. And we did take August off as a council, and so there was no Monday with council in August. And then the subsequent was Labor Day. So we are, I'm missing you all. So I'll be back the first Monday in November. Please avail yourselves of Saturdays. And the second thing I want to say is that the NUSA Human Services Awards, the request for nominations are up. And so nominations are available, the forms are available on the NUSA, NUHSA website, and they are due Friday, October 11th. They're requesting 3 categories. The first, Human Services Champion. The second, Outstanding Human Services Program. The third, Youth Human Services Leadership Award. And then the award celebration itself for winners and nominees is on Wednesday, January 22nd from 5 to 7. We have so many remarkable people in our community, and it's been a joy for me to think about who I might nominate, and it will be a joy for me to hear who you will nominate. So please step up and let us know. And that's what I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Shrubnik,
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Councilmember Lutzes.
Yes, last week, our deputy city manager was not present with us, but she is this week. And so I wanted to quickly extend a congratulations to her in recognition of her, the reception of the Leadership Trailblazer Award. So congratulations. We were all really excited last week, but you were still away at the time. So you're back this week. So congratulations. That's awesome. And then second, I just want to thank and recognize staff. I know it's budget season and there's a lot right now. So thank you for all of the long hours. Thank you for all of the hard work. We see that, we notice that, and thank you for doing this kind of work that helps our community at the end of the day. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I was just trying to decide if I wanted to say anything. I was about to say nothing to add, but I do want to give thanks to our council and our city for recognizing Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I know it hits close to home for many of us. We never can see who experiences domestic violence. Really don't know what people have gone through. And it truly is the most underreported thing in our society. People hold it close to home. People often can't even identify that they're experiencing it. So here as a city, I'm thankful that we light the lights and recognize it. So I just want to make a personal comment about that, as I know almost every person in this room has experienced it in some way, shape, or form, if not directly, definitely through witnessing family members and friends. And I just keep noticing the good work of our staff and community. I love Where's the Fun? I want to give thanks to whomever brought this to our weekly agendas. And what I witness around our city, the beauty of the plantings and things that are growing, I'm just thankful. So I want to just give thanks to everyone for the good work, because we actually have products that we witness. So that's it. Thank you.
And I have nothing to share tonight. So with nothing more to come before us, we are adjourned.